This is Beyond the Veil with Norman Meredith.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Norman Meredith coming from Liberty, South Carolina with another episode of Beyond the Veil. Tonight, we're going to talk about what's underneath the Pyramid of Giza and a few other things going on out there in Egypt. Also, Ed Lease is going to join me again tonight, and he says he doesn't know anything about this, so it'll be interesting about some of the by comments that we get going between us.
I will try my best.
Ed, that's all you can do. I mean, all we can do is talk, and you can throw in your comments from what you know. You might be surprised at what you really do know on the subject.
Yeah, I just think that it's kind of weird that they're triangular pyramidic shapes all over the world, and they're not related, they say. So that's
but it's, that's really odd. You can find pyramids in the Balkan countries, in Russia, parts of China. There's even some supposedly here in the United States in the Grand Canyon. There's no-go zones in the Grand Canyon that you're not allowed to fly over.
I heard about that.
Into. And it's supposedly there's been rumors of a Sphinx-like statue that was there, but it was destroyed, and pyramid-like structures as well.
Let's dive in.
Well, tonight we're going to talk about, some of you may have heard about this company using a thing called SAR radar, or synthetic aperture radar, to look under the pyramids. Now, I'm showing you just a small hodgepodge of pictures. Now, on the left is an AI version of what these pillars underneath the Pyramid of Giza may look like. Now, if you notice the middle one, there's supposed to be 8 round cylinders with spiral staircases leading down to 2 gigantic base rocks, or structures, buildings, whatever you want to call them. And then the last one is, this has always been passed around for as long as that the internet has been going on, and there's been memes. Some people said the top of the pyramids were basically the tops of obelisks. Now, there's obelisks in London, the United States. Look at the Washington Monument in Rome. The obelisk is the top of the pyramid, okay? And underneath it is just a long-standing structure like a skyscraper. And people had always said that there may have been skyscraper-like buildings underneath the pyramids. Well, now, with this SAR radar, they've proven this, that something exists underneath the pyramids. But I'm also going to tell you, there is some folks saying this is not conclusive yet. They're saying, yes, the SAR radar may have found something, but it may not be all the hype. It's not all the hype. But I've only seen 2 disagreements so far on this article, okay? That we're saying that, oh no, it's a misconception. It's a misconception. But there's too many talking heads, too many articles out there that are promoting, yes, this is real. Because back in about 30 years ago, there was an Egyptian historian / what's the word I'm looking for? The guy digs up archaeologist. Egyptian archaeologist, who stated that there was structures underneath the pyramids, and even further back to when I was a youngster, back in the dinosaur age, when I was about 10 years old, stuff like that. They even talked about there being structures underneath the Sphinx, that in between the legs of the Sphinx, there's a hidden doorway that leads to hidden rooms that may lead to a secret temple or library underneath the Sphinx. And every time that somebody wanted to do some kind of survey or digs or perform some form of radar and all that, the Egyptian government said no, flat out no. They didn't want nothing done. But the only reason why they would probably do this is, why do you think, Ed?
To make money?
Nah, because
don't know.
They didn't want the truth to be revealed.
That's probably true too.
because they know what's under there, but they don't want it to be exposed. I mean, if you look at some of these movies that are out there about secret societies and cults that go on generational and forever and ever, they protect secrets. And I believe in the Egyptian government, in parts of it, there may be a form of a secret society that is sworn to protect the secrets of the Sphinx, secrets of the pyramids. But as you notice how the trend lately is changing here in the world, people are talking about pyramids all over. They're seeing pyramid-shaped UFOs all over the world. Now all of a sudden somebody had been doing this research with the SAR radar, and they find these secret contraptions, buildings underneath. Now this here picture that we're looking at, this is an artist's rendition of a thought that's been passed around for 40 years, if not better, of what the pyramids were. There was a theory going around for the longest time that the pyramids were energy transmitters.
Like a battery almost. I
Yeah.
heard like a tethering station for aliens.
Yes, exactly. Because the way it's laid out is supposed to be laid out just like Orion's belt. The location of it supposedly corresponds with Orion's belt in space. The three pyramids. And, we see stone, just plain rocks. Now, Ed, bring up the one with the white sheen.
The limestone.
The limestone.
Okay, here we go.
This is what the pyramids used to look like. Smooth limestone with a golden capstone.
In a big city of Cairo in the back.
Now, gold is very conductive.
Absolutely.
It's used in electronics. It's used in manufacturing of high advanced technologies. Now, limestone is highly conductive too. It can conduct, from what some paranormalists will say, energies on the metaphysical level, as well as electricity. And it's very possible they're saying that these were energy generators that could provide enough power at one time to power the entire Earth. Or they could also have been power sources for unidentified flying objects from outer space. Or UAP. I'm not going to use that word. I hate that word. Visitors from space, that these were charging stations. But also, if they had white limestone, they could also be literally seen from space because they acted as beacons. Did you know that?
I had no idea. I could see how that could be highly reflective.
Yes, the reflectivity of that was freaking awesome. I mean, they stood out as beacons, literal beacons from the sunlight. And as well as the energy potential they could generate. And then they were talking about the shafts in there, how different materials was mercury and something else would generate energy. Now, this is just a artist's rendition of what could be under the guise of pyramids. Now, if you notice, we have the circle line structures which are supporting the upper thing, the circle, the spiral staircases. Now, which looks like I got a Colosseum type top and a rectangular type base. That's not necessarily true, but it's just an artist's rendition. Now, let's go on to a cleaner version of what the SARS radar found. Let's go on to the next one there, Ed. This is one that's been the most popular one, showing actual buildings within the pyramid that have not been per se opened up. And this is what SARS radar has found besides what is underneath it. Now, underneath it, like I say, there was 8 tubes with spiral staircases. Now, some say these tubes could have been wells. But, that seems like a lot of wells, but there is no indication found by explorers of these wells inside the pyramid, which should be odd, And nobody has found any openings at this time that would lead downward, which would mean there's further excavations would need to be done. But did you also know that Giza Plateau is riddled with a lot of hidden and open entrances that are blocked by iron doors, steel doors with cage fronts that lead underground. And a lot of them say these lead to underneath the Sphinx, the pyramids, that these tunnels lead to everything that's going on underground here. But yet the public is not allowed to see this. Did you know about a lot of that?
Had no idea.
Yeah. That, like I say, the Egyptian government knows what's going on. The secret society that runs all this knows what's going on.
I've heard that even back in the day, when these were being built, that Egypt is so old that there were Egyptologists around while the pyramids in Giza were being built, because it's so prehistoric that the civilizations before them 3,000 years ago were interesting.
Now, I've heard that too. I've heard that it was actually the pyramids were even before Egypt that someone had built. I watched an AI clip the other day, and it was showing aliens building the pyramids, and they were using levitation, harmonics, you've heard of sound waves and frequencies with the hertz to levitate and move things, to carve. And some of these aliens were giants, literal giants. So it's like they were picking up tinker toys and building blocks to build the pyramids.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But then also, if you look at some of the size of some of these temples they have down there, the doors themselves are big enough, and the hallways are big enough for literal giants to walk through. I wish I thought about it earlier, but if you ever walk through some of these temples or seen the doorways, they're freaking huge. We're talking hundreds of feet.
Well, there's other things besides that I don't understand as well. The drilling through granite. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have the tools to do it.
No.
And it's not even like the circular holes 70 feet through granite. It's the star-shaped holes 70 feet through granite. How do you do that?
My only thing is a plasma cutter or some form of laser. You know what I'm saying?
Making me think too much.
Well, yeah, that's like in Ecuador and Peru. Some of the ruins there are blocks that are put together with such precision you can't even take a razor blade and stick between it. That's how fine it is. And stones that were so precisely cut that it's just imaginable how they could cut it with supposedly Stone Age tools. I mean, they've supposedly said, they used logs to move these blocks, but the weight and mass alone just does not make sense. I mean,
there's a lot to it that we're probably never going to know in our lifetime for sure.
No. Supposedly, Tesla was onto something about how the Egyptians were built, how they powered things, but they were lost in his notes when he died. And then our government through the FBI confiscated all his notes, and it all disappeared. And whose uncle got a hold of those notes?
I want to say Edison.
Donald Trump's uncle.
Really?
Yeah. His name was John, if I remember right. And he had all of Tesla's notes and everything from time travel to free energy, you name it. He had access to it all.
Sounds like a conspiracy, man.
Could be.
We need to dive into that one.
What, Tesla and his notes?
Tesla, the notes, and how it comes to the current president's uncle having possession of them.
Some people say that he may have seen the future, and that's why Donald Trump is where he's at, because he knew exactly how and when everything was supposed to be. And told them how to react and respond at certain key points.
Well, it's only a conspiracy until it comes true.
This is true.
And if we're being honest, we've seen a lot of that recently.
Yes.
A lot of things, between coronavirus and all sorts of stuff is like, hey, y'all are a bunch of wacky right-wing conspiracy theorists. It's like, hold on. 21 of these 21 conspiracy theories came true. So it's like,
We're not crazy.
well, it's not conspiracy theory. What do they call it? What was the term? I heard it the other day. I don't know. I'll come up with it here in a second.
I can't tell you. I'm having this. I have to take more vitamin B in order to remember what I'm eating. All right, let's bring up. Do I got any other pictures left there?
You do have one that is over aerial, and it's from this angle.
Okay, this is another picture, a representation of what the SARS radar is seeing. And this is looking down at the pyramid. Now, if you take out the buildings in the middle, this is the regular look of the pyramid of Giza that we as regular folks see. You know, the regular shafts, the room where the body is, and the other rooms that were treasure rooms and such, and little shafts and stuff like that. That's what we see as normal people. The other stuff is hidden away from the public. But with the SAR radar, it opened up this to where we could all see what's being hidden away literally behind the veil.
Well, maybe they said that these were tombs of pharaohs and whatnot to give a cover story so people wouldn't go in and plunder them because they revered them and they were scared of them and all the false rooms.
Could be.
As a cover story to cover up that they're absolutely energy generating buildings.
Of course. Yeah, you got to have a cover story for anything. You know, something goes wrong, you don't want to tell them the truth of what happened. So you tell them this was Pharaoh's burial chamber. I was on a train of thought and I just had a train wreck.
I felt that one.
Yeah, I know. That's bad when you're onto something and all of a sudden, boom.
Conspiracy theory. No, it is called critical thinking.
Yes, my
Critical thinking skills.
My critical thinking is collapsing right now. I'm sorry, folks. It just
Come and gone.
somebody's hit me with the microwave wave.
Microwave.
Yeah, microwaves. They're trying to scramble my thoughts. Let's see. But we know something exists because for years people have talked about it. They've theorized and talked about it. And now that it's actually being proven, the genie's being let out of the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing, you know, people are talking about the world being changed, you know, going into the fifth dimension or the sixth dimension and doors opening up. And now with UFOs becoming more mainstream and the possibility of disclosure coming together, you notice things are starting to become more and more prevalent lately. We're learning more about what's out there, both in space, on our own planet. We're learning more about our own genome, about what makes us tick. I mean, it's an amazing change of events going on. I mean, the governments are opening up about UFOs more so now that, like I and we're seeing more and more UFOs. We're seeing more orbs. There's more so-called drone encounters. And then people are talking about pyramids, and then all of a sudden, all this new information about the pyramids are coming out. It's like Revelation is slowly we're building up to something big. What do you think about that, Ed?
I think it's always been a matter of the battle for information. You know, because it's probably out there, but we don't get to hear it. Mm-hmm. So it's almost as if this could be a show where you're having info wars. Maybe Alex Jones wasn't wrong.
He could be very much right.
I mean, coming off of JFK stuff, stealth bomber stuff, Area 51, and UFO things directly from our government.
Did you see the clip where it looked like the driver shot JFK?
Yep. Seen it.
I've seen it. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't know if it's in the Zapruder film or the knockoff one or whichever, but I'm going to tell you. Back in the Cold War day when it was Russia and it was Lee Harvey Oswald, and we're like, hey, this could be Lee Harvey Oswald. He's associated with Russia. And you have 3 news medias, as long as they say
CBS
this is what happened.
CBS also got a film of Lee Harvey Oswald on the street.
Well, As long as they say this all happened, then it did. Just like the moon landing, just like all these things. But at the same time, you got to figure there had to have been some CIA, LBJ cover up. Because why would a low-life mafioso, Jack Ruby, nightclub owner, random guy go out and specifically murder Lee Harvey Oswald for the opposed assassination of JFK?
Because
it's too much.
JFK
crap.
was his hero, and he murdered his hero, so he had to seek revenge. Supposedly, that's the story.
Yeah, right.
Oh, here's one for you. The president of Argentina has been releasing
Of Nazis.
information about the Nazis, and especially one particular.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah. If you go down to Argentina today, you'll see a lot of the buildings inscribed in stone. So it didn't happen yesterday.
It's been going on.
There's a lot of German talk down there. A lot of, and sure, I'm sure refugees or whoever had fled to those countries, but these are specific. Submarine docks off the coast of Argentina.
Now, here's the story I'm going to share with y'all, folks, okay? The president of Argentina said, get this, the U.S. and its allies spirited away, guess who? Adolf Hitler to Argentina. He lived until the 1960s and had, get this, 2 daughters. Don't know who these daughters were. I wonder if one of them was Rodham Clinton. Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Oh boy.
I've heard people say that occasionally.
She is a boomer, and that would be about the perfect time for that to happen. Now, who would the mother be? Are we talking about Ava Braun?
Probably.
Now we have to do some facial recognition between Hillary Clinton and Ava Braun.
Yes.
Maybe that could be a show.
That would be an interesting
Similarities.
show. Yeah. But yeah, that's one of the biggest things going on now that I bet you a lot of you didn't know about that. And what were you talking about the B-2 bomber?
Just, secrets coming out and
What's your
locations
secret?
and things like that. I haven't read too deeply into it, just sort of the highlights of what is supposed to be released informationally under the Trump administration.
Well, what I heard supposedly about the B-2 and the B-21 is they have anti-gravity drives in them. They use conventional engines to get off the ground, and once off the ground, they kick in an anti-gravity drive that keeps them flying as long as they fly.
Sounds like a Glock Bell. Maybe some red mercury in there too.
Could be. I've
Well,
heard that.
it's not like they didn't, like you said, spirit away the scientists of
Yes.
of the V projects in Germany to bring
Yes.
them over here
And-
and literally work them for NASA.
And then we had William tell us about what his father found in Germany that was never brought to fruition, brought to the light.
What was it?
Remember the V1, the V2, the Flying Wing, the Glock Bell,
Yeah. That's from our last episode.
and the
One of our
flying
last episodes.
and the flying saucers that they had all stored away in the Black Forest. His father, remember, his father was part of a platoon that was guarding that stuff in
Remember
the
you
Black
telling me
Forest.
the story about it.
Yeah, we did a show on that. And all that stuff was spirited away. Supposedly, that was why Patton died. He was assassinated because he wanted to bring this stuff to light. And the government said, no.
Don't know.
Don't know.
That would be a big one. Patton was very much loved or hated, depending upon who you were.
Exactly. And he kind of believed about the truth, even if it did hurt him sometimes. So, all right, what else is there going on in the world that we can mention? So we talked about Adolf Hitler, the guys, like I say, oh yeah, folks, there has been sightings of, I'm being serious, of pyramid-shaped UFOs. There's still the UFO flap in New Jersey going on. People are still seeing a lot of objects there. It has not died down. It's just the media has stopped reporting it because it's just, how do you keep telling people the same thing every day? We're still in day 106 and they're still out here. After a while, it just becomes part of normal. It becomes normalcy.
And if you talk about it too much, you look like a whack job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, it doesn't sell.
No.
So there's no money in it. They won't do it.
Until they start shooting laser beams at each other and one literally crashes or lands to do repairs, there's no story.
Yep.
I mean, just, the only other thing you can see is just people seeing more and more of them in different locales. But there has been a lot more sightings off the coast of Florida, both in the Atlantic and in the Gulf of America. People are seeing UFOs coming out of the ocean. Some are reporting giant mother-type ships. Huge freaking things, size of carriers, if not bigger, out there over the water. And you do know that Elon Musk did rescue 2 of the stranded astronauts that were up in space that the previous administration would not bring down. Elon Musk could have rescued them sooner, but Biden did not want to do that because it would have made the administration look bad under him. You know about that?
Yep. Absolutely. They're supposed to be up there for 3 days. I think it turned into 9 months.
Yeah.
How did they have enough food up there?
They kept shuttling up more stuff via the...
If they're shuttling it up, why can't they bring them back?
Well, they were... matter of rockets. They didn't have the rockets for manned entry, but they had shuttle rockets, which are basically... Figure a missile just loaded up with food and gear and stuff like that for the payload.
I'm still questioning the Van Allen belts, but
yeah,
that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. So, but see, Elon originally offered to come and take him down earlier than before Trump got in office. But because Elon was supporting Trump, Biden said, nah, no thank you. Goodbye, thank you, bye.
That's messed up.
Right. So
that's even if he was at the helm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of auto pen going on the past couple months.
Yeah, and there's the auto pen scandal. That's another thing. We haven't heard nothing or seen anything about him since he's left.
That's right.
I think he's either digging daisies or he's been dropped off in a very deep sanitarium somewhere.
Wow. You ever see Weekend at Bernie's? It's a weekend of Biden's.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah. All right. I think we've covered enough tonight. Maybe we'll talk about Adolf Hitler and his heirs and see what we can find. That might be an interesting subject.
We can dig.
We'll dig.
Let's dig.
Let's do some digging on that.
I'll send you some stuff.
All right, let's plan on that. How about that? That sounds like that'd be fun.
And if not, we'll start a rumor.
We'll start a rumor.
I just don't let the CIA hear about it.
Yeah. It's too late. They already know what we know and what's going on.
And probably planned half of it.
Planned half of it, that's right. Maybe we can find someone we can talk to about it. Let me see if my friend might be interested in talking about that.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's plan on that. All right, folks. Thank you for joining Ed and I tonight up here in Liberty, South Carolina for another episode of Beyond the Veil, and we'll see you next week. Enjoy.